What's up, everybody? Welcome to another week of Cover 3 on Yahoo Sports. I'm Michelle Gingras. Kimberley Martin joins me in New York City. Liz Loza rounds it out for us on the West Coast as always. And guys, another eventful Sunday in the NFL. Will break down the biggest upsets of Week 10, figure out which rebuilding team has the best future, and Scott Pioli joins us to talk about a potential NFL team in London. I'm sure you guys all heard those rumors as well, but first, it's time to run the options. An upset win over the Rams Sunday made it 4 straight for Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Many had written them off after a 1-4 start and the loss of Big Ben Roethlisberger, but somehow Tomlin has the Steelers at 5-4 and fighting for a playoff spot. And one of the teams that they're fighting with is John Gruden's Raiders, who overcame an early season filled with a little bit of drama and got a big win Thursday night over the Chargers to get them to 5-4 as well. So Kimberley, let's start with you. Which coach has done the more impressive job so far this season, Tomlin or Gruden?
I don't think it's even close. And let me start off by saying I was one of those people who wrote off the Steelers. So Mike Tomlin, I apologize. I think Tomlin's the clear choice. I mean, you lose your future Hall of Fame quarterback, you lose the backup for a couple games, and your team still believes it has a chance. You pull off a trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick, who came from the Dolphins. He's balling out. The defense is playing inspired. I think Tomlin, to keep this team together after losing Le'Veon, after losing Antonio Brown, and all the questions there, I think it's clear that Tomlin, he deserves some credit for what this team's doing.
I think Kimberly is right. I think the emotional answer is John Gruden, but I think the right answer is Mike Tomlin, and I think Kimberly hit it right on the head. After being shellacked in Week 1 by the Patriots and then dropping Week 2 to the Seahawks, this team went out and they got Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is being horribly misused by, and by the way, his mama knew it, by the Dolphins. And they brought him, I mean, it is so evident what an impact this player is making, and you saw that in the game-sealing interception on Sunday. This defense is on fire, second most takeaways, second most sacks. Credit due to Mike Tomlin.
All right, from 2 of the AFC's best head coaches to 2 of its best young stars, Lamar Jackson racked up a perfect QB rating in the Ravens' blowout of the Bengals, while Patrick Mahomes returned to the Chiefs and somehow lost despite throwing for 446 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, Liz, as we look to the future of the AFC, which of these human highlight reels are you more excited to watch going forward?
Oh, yeah, well, the Chiefs didn't lose because of Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs lost because of their run defense, but nobody is doing it better than Patrick Mahomes. And yes, I understand that Lamar Jackson is a wonderfully electric runner, but Patrick Mahomes can throw the dang ball in midair off his left foot while jogging. I mean, basically, if Aaron Rodgers is flying first class on Virgin Airlines, then Patrick Mahomes is popping bottles on a PJ, nothing like it.
I was wondering where we going with that, but I like where we landed. I like that. Okay, Kimberly, what do you think?
I completely disagree. So here's the problem. Patrick Mahomes is almost, I've seen it. Like we saw Mahomes' magic last year.
You've seen it? Wait, you've seen football, like, Jesus. You've seen it.
Okay. But now I'm on to the next one. And the next thing to me is Lamar. Like you ask, emotions aside, I think you ask the guys on the Patriots, you go in locker rooms and ask you guys on the Seahawks, like who's the most electrifying player in the league? They're saying Lamar Jackson. Those spin moves, the way he's running the ball, Patrick can't do that.
Yeah, Mark Ingram chanting MVP to the crowd.
Patrick's doing all of it on one ankle. He's doing it on a bad ankle. We haven't seen Lamar play hurt yet.
Okay, last but not least, ladies, the Dolphins, after defeating the Colts in Indianapolis to give them their 2nd straight win, the Dolphins have seemingly decided that maybe they aren't tanking, and in the process, dealt the Colts a serious blow in their division title and playoff hopes. So, Kimberly, big picture here, which streak could actually be more damaging? The Dolphins' 2 straight wins or the Colts' 2 straight losses?
Yeah, the Colts losing 2 in a row. At this point, if the playoffs started today, the Colts would be out. Like, that's a big problem. And you look at Vinatieri, he's now a liability. He used to be a strength. This guy, I think it's, 6 missed extra points, 5 missed field goals. That doesn't happen, and I think in the past that would never happen. But now it is, and the Colts have to figure something out. I understand they don't have Jacoby Brissett, but really it's about the division and this AFC race. And right now, they're full game behind the Texans. I think the Colts have really hurt themselves these last couple weeks.
Lizzie, what do you got?
Absolutely, because I mean, winning is fantastic, but losing definitely sucks, even if you're trying to tank. This has really hurt the Colts. And how many miracles do you want Frank Reich to perform? He's playing, as Kimberly mentioned, without Jacoby Brissett, without T.Y. Hilton, without Paris Campbell, the newly drafted receiver who had all of this gadgety potential out of Ohio State. And now this race is going to be decided over the next 2 weeks, because in week 11, the Colts have the Jags with Nick Foles under center, by the way, and then they've got the Texans, so they better figure something out. Pony up, in fact, pony up.
Okay, on that note, moving on to a team that may be confused at exactly which way they're going following the Jets' win over the Giants. Second-year quarterback Sam Darnold very optimistically had this to say about his team's chances at a postseason berth.
Yeah, I mean, we need every win from now on. You know, because we still got a chance. I mean, you know, if we get on a roll here and we win out, we got a chance at the playoffs. So guys in this locker room know this. They know that, and you know, we're really excited to, you know, continue to get back to work.
I was right in front of him when he said that, and I still couldn't believe that those.
Did your jaw drop? Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So obviously, Sam may be a little overly optimistic considering the state of the rebuilding Jets. So that sparked something. We want to spend a little bit more time on one topic and do something a little bit more fun. You guys get to play GM for the day, and you can take the job at any struggling franchise that is either currently rebuilding or probably should be. So you tell me which team you're taking and why, and then we'll break down your plan to lead them to glory. So GM Loza, you're up first. Which team are you taking a chance on?
Move over, Joe Douglas. I got the Jets. I mean, look at that optimism. I love it. And honestly, I do believe that if this is a quarterback's league, even though most teams aren't playing with their starter right now, that Sam Darnold has the potential to win for this franchise. I've spent a lot of time with Sam, and I believe in his ability. I like his anticipation. I think he is it under center. I think to that end, this Jet squad has a lot of young talent on their roster. Jamal Adams is an obvious Jenga piece for this defense, and the New York media does help attract some free agents who might be looking to rebrand to the city and to the franchise. The biggest problem to me is Adam Gase, and when I'm the GM, he out of there.
So that was what I was going to ask you. You know, you hit on a lot of the positives aside from your perspective of Adam Gase. So what moves are you making to turn things around from the get-go? Is it getting rid of the head coach to start things off?
Well, I think getting rid of the head coach changes the culture, and I hate using the C word, but I think this franchise needs a culture change.
Again.
And I think Sam Darnold can add the optimism that this franchise needs, but I think you got to protect him. Anthony Costanzo of the Colts is going to be a free agent. Let's get a left tackle to protect Sam Darnold's blind side. I'd also like to see him get a dynamic wide receiver. Josh Gordon is going to be a free agent at the end of this year, and he is a very affordable option, especially given the amount of cap space that the Jets have to work with. Finally, that secondary needs bolstering. Everybody knows it. Darius Slayton just went off for 2 touchdowns last week on Sunday. Let's get James Bradbury, who did not play in Week 10. He's on the Carolina Panthers dealing with a groin injury, but is allowing a passer rating this season of just 74. And I'd love to see him added to the outside here in the Jets. Now let's go win some games. Forget Jets. Come on, Fireman Adam, and bring you out of retirement.
All right, everyone loves the GM Liz Loza right now, but this Jets team hasn't taken shape more or less yet. But the current state of the Jets, Kimberly, do you agree with the changes that she would make?
Oh yeah, all those changes, I get it. Get the head coach out of there. If you believe in Sam Darnold, he's a guy that you can build around. Like Liz said, Jamal Adams, good pieces. I personally, I wouldn't. The Jets, I wouldn't really. That's not a franchise that I would want to rebuild.
You got some feels with the Jets.
Yeah, only because I've seen it. I covered that team. I was there. I was in there. Ownership plays a lot. It plays a huge role, and I think that's what head coaches and GMs forget. Like ownership. If you have a meddlesome ownership, if you have owners who are thinking about the tabloids. And the New York tabloids were crowning Adam Gase as this offensive genius in January. Now it's a different tune. So I think when owners have a lot to do with it too. So that's why I'm actually going to stay away from the Jets.
Okay, so on paper, GM Liz Loza, your team stacks up. Kimberly, you're up. Which franchise are you taking over?
So So this might come as a surprise, but I actually would take the Dolphins, and here is why. I think, look at that draft capital they have. They have the cap space and the draft capital to make a lot of changes, and trust me, this team needs a lot of changes. The one thing they don't need, though, is a new head coach. I think they have a young head coach who's hungry. Under the Bill Belichick tree, I think this guy, the way you see this team playing right now, granted it's only 2 wins, but a team that appeared to be trying to lose in every conceivable way is now putting it together and staying together. And I think you give credit to Brian Flores as well. Plus, another thing, there's no state income tax in Florida. So all those free agents
always shining.
Come to the Sunshine State and be in Miami. Like, really.
Okay, but there is one glaring issue. I mean, I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, but is that your franchise quarterback, or is the franchise quarterback in next year's draft or maybe somewhere else?
So here's why I say this is a tricky situation, because you don't know what any of these prospects are going to be like coming out of 2020, right? You see Baker Mayfield struggle. You see these guys struggle right now. But Tua, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, those guys are better than what I have right now. No offense to Fitzmagic. But really, going forward, I think these are young guys that you can build around. And the Dolphins, we would have a ton of draft picks in the first round. We'd have 3. We'd have 6 in the top 70. So that, once you get the young QB in, you build around him. Get me a left tackle. We traded Laramie Tunsil, so get me a left tackle upgrade. Get me a strong running game. Get me a defense. You build around the kid. Best friend for a young quarterback is a running game, so that's where I'd start. It's a lot.
I think Kimberly is right about not having to unload the coaching staff in the Dolphins, because in addition to Brian Flores, you've got Chad O'Shea, who also comes from the Belichick tree and has preached multiplicity since this spring, really. And I think Kimberly's right. If you can find a dual threat quarterback to build around, O'Shea can certainly has the offensive knowledge to make that system work.
You know, the other thing I mentioned, touched on the Jets, the flip side to the Dolphins is the pressure. Everybody wants to win, don't get me wrong, but you need a franchise that's going to stick to the plan. And the Jets have not. They're on their 3rd rebuild now. If I can get Stephen Ross to understand, this is what we're doing, let's stay the course. I think the market, it's a little easier to have that slow build. So
I was going to say, the New York market can be very enticing to players, but it can also be very intimidating when they're hit with the realities and the expectations of that New York market. So good luck to both of you in your careers as NFL executives. Very impressive. Up next, we'll talk to someone who did that job for real and very successfully. But first, last week there were rumors swirling around that the Chargers could be on the move to London. And Chargers owner Dean Spanos was not a fan of those rumors.
It's total. Okay? We're not going to London. We're not going anywhere. We're playing in Los Angeles. This is our home, and this is where we're planning to be for a long time. Okay. Period. Okay? And if you want me to say it again, I'll say it again. Okay? Thank you.
How do you really feel? My
what
goodness.
About the children, all
Wow.
those curse words.
I know,
Jeez,
I
dude.
agree. All right, so on that note, we now welcome in our real GM, our friend and 5-time NFL Executive of the Year, Scott Pioli. Scott, you just returned from International Combine in Germany. We'll get to that in a bit, but first, you heard Spanos there very passionately saying that their Chargers aren't going anywhere. They're playing in Los Angeles, but is there any possibility that the Chargers end up in London?
Chargers, no, I don't think there's a chance. And I think Dean is speaking the truth a little bit aggressively, but he's speaking the truth. I love Dean. No, I don't think that there's any chance that the Chargers are not in the continental United States. I don't think it's something that Dean or the rest of the family would ever want. I even know his son, John, who's probably the next generation running the organization, wouldn't want any part of taking the franchise out of the States either.
So, okay, you say the Chargers are staying in LA, but is there another city that we could hear a team going to?
Well, I'm not sure what the team is. I know speculation has always been that it's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, possibly heading to London. But I definitely see in the future, in my lifetime, that's for sure, that there's a team in or outside of the continental United States, particularly in Europe. And I could see London is the city the NFL has put most of their energy and resources into, not just financial resources, but human resources. They've got a league office set up over there. And I could also see it possibly being somewhere in Germany, which is the country that's probably taken to the American game the most.
Scott, I'm hearing you talk about London and Germany and all of these European locations, but what about proximity-wise, something closer to the U.S., Canada, or Mexico? Obviously, I'm in Los Angeles, and the Rams have a huge Latino fan base, and we almost saw them play at Estadio Aztec. I think in 2 weeks there's a game there. What about Mexico City as a realistic international location?
Liz, that's a great question. And I think the idea behind that is the fact that there's such close proximity by, the fact that Mexico is attached to the United States as well as Canada. And I think that the NFL has done a really good job of marketing those countries and certain cities in those countries. As you know, the Raiders have a strong fan base in Mexico, as do the Oakland Raiders. And as you mentioned, your hometown team. And then, of course, you've got the Detroit Lions and Buffalo Bills that have very strong relationships with cities in Canada. But I think the NFL's intention here is to try to get something across the water, so to speak, and to bring something to a broader base outside of the United States and out of North America, quite honestly.
I totally understand the NFL wanting to expand, to other parts of the world. But logistically, is it possible to have a team overseas full time? I know now, you see teams, they'll play one game of the year overseas. But just with the timing and the travel, how does that work?
Yeah, Michelle, I think the biggest problem that the league sees in terms of bringing a team overseas is not necessarily the mileage, right? Because that trip, truthfully, when you're talking about moving a team from Miami to Seattle for a road game, that's a long trip as well, or from New England to Seattle. Those are very, very long trips.
But it's not consistently long trips. You know what I'm saying? It's not like every single week or every other week you're going across, the pond. Literally across the pond,
Well, again, I think the biggest problem is the change of time zones, not necessarily the distance. Okay. One of the things I know that the league has talked about in the past is, or as part of this whole idea, is to see if you can set a schedule where a team, let's just say it's going to be in London. They play 4 home games in London. Then they travel to the United States, and there's a home base facility somewhere in the United States. Someplace like, again, maybe it's somewhere in Atlanta where there's an easy airport to access, and they can set up in Atlanta and stay in the United States for 4 weeks and do 4 road games in the week, then go back and do 4 home games, and then teams travel to them. So finding a way where there's at least long periods where they stay consistently in one place and the travel isn't too much on their players or on the teams that are trying to come see them.
You also want to think about the players' families and just how that whole dynamic will work if they see them for 4 weeks and they don't see them for 4 weeks. I see that they're trying to find a compromise that works. So if we fast forward 10 years from now, would you say that the NFL could have a team that's not based in the continental U.S.?
I think that there's a strong chance because the NFL's been trying to do this since the 1990s, right? They started bringing between the World League of American Football and then there was NFL Europe. They've been trying to do this for so long, and they've finally started to get a strong footprint and get strong fan support in a number of countries. I think that 10 years, a decade from now, it's not too far-fetched to think that a team may be there.
Speaking of, you were just in Germany for the NFL's International Combine. Can you tell us just about the event and the NFL's efforts to obviously expand its footprint, not just in London and in England, but abroad throughout Europe?
Yeah, I think, it was actually pretty cool. And I think what the NFL finally has realized that they can't just bring the game and a Sunday game to the fans and try to grow the sport that way and to try to get other countries to embrace what is probably, our most popular sport in our country. So what they thought about doing is not only having games there, but trying to find players that actually can play in the NFL and that are good enough to play in the NFL. For instance, this year when the Carolina Panthers were there, Efe Obado, who was originally from Nigeria but then lived and grew up in England, he was such a big fan favorite, and he drew a lot of people in and a lot of fans in. And what they've seen is that the European players specifically draw a lot of attention to their home country. So the NFL, the International Combine was fascinating because we had 33 players there from 19 different countries, a lot of different languages being spoken that day. And what it was just like an NFL combine. We did heights, weights, measurements. We did interviews with the players, got to see who was fluent in English and who wasn't. The only thing that we didn't do really is the physical part, which was to have them visit with doctors. And the plan from that group of 33 players was to see how many players we could find to take down to the IMG Academy. And they'll work there from January, February, and March. And then we'll have a pro day, just like a college pro day, to see if there's teams that may be interested in either drafting these players or be a part of the NFL's the program that we have, the NFL International Practice Squad program.
And really quickly, there were a couple of players that you did recommend to go to IMG, correct?
Yeah, there's, and one of them actually, a young man by the name of Chris Malumba, actually is originally from Nigeria, grew up in Finland, played football all through high school in Finland, and then he came to the United States, did 2 years at two separate JUCOs, then ended up doing his final 2 seasons at the University of Colorado, finished up his eligibility last year and was available for the 2018 draft, wasn't selected, but he was a third-team All-Pac-12 player. So, there's a couple of guys here that may be intriguing and interesting, and it's a great way to grow the sport.
All right, great stuff, Scott. Thank you so much. We'll be talking to you again very soon. Coming up, a big Monday Night Football matchup between the Seahawks and the Niners. But first, we asked Tyler Lockett to give us his best dad joke. Take a look.
It's Dad Jokes with Tyler Lockett. Hey, Dad, you want to hear a joke about construction? I'm still working on it.
I actually laughed at that.
I laugh at all of these dad jokes. I'm like the perfect clientele for this. All right, moving on. Monday Night Football. The Seattle Seahawks head to Santa Clara tonight to take on the undefeated 49ers on Monday Night Football. Kickoff slated for 8:15 p.m. You can catch the game right here on the Yahoo Sports app following our show. Huge matchup here in the NFC West and the NFC playoff picture in general. Liz, what's at stake here tonight?
Well, I mean, obviously control of the division is at stake, but I also think there are MVP race implications here because we heard Kimberley going gaga for Lamar Jackson, who I think might be giving Russell Wilson a little bit of competition for the race. So if Russell Wilson can go dangerous against this undefeated 49er squad, then maybe he holds control.
All right, Kimberley, what do you think?
You know, to me, Liz is right. It's all about the division. I think especially for the Seahawks, Russell's got to play well. You're thinking about home field advantage, right? You're thinking you want to have every sort of advantage that you can possibly have in the NFC. The NFC is not like the AFC. You have a couple teams that are going to go, but it's going to be a dogfight. And I think the Seahawks are on a roll. But I also think the 49ers have something to prove. Are they really as good as their record indicates?
All right, Liz, Seahawks win if blank.
If they stop the run, that is how Kyle Shanahan is getting his offense going. Week in and week out. I mean, this rushing attack is incredible. You're seeing other coaches trying to copy Shanahan's scheme, and it's the best way to get Jimmy G going. So that's what the Seahawks got to do, and they got a middle-of-the-road run defense.
All right, Kimberley, on the other side, if the Niners do blank, they win.
I think it's all about Jimmy G. We've heard about the 49ers defense. Jimmy G, show me something. If he throws 3 interceptions and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions.
Are we betting for them to win or lose?
Yeah. No, Jimmy, throw 3 interceptions.
Three touchdowns.
Oh my gosh, and no interceptions. Then I think the Seahawks will lose this game. Clearly, I don't think the 49ers are winning because I can't even say Jimmy G is going to throw 3 touchdowns.
There you go. Your true feelings have come out. Okay, moving on. Every weekend, the internet gives us some great content to debate about. This weekend, no different. So it's time for us to pick teams. First up, Rams cornerback Jalen Ramsey had some choice words for Steeler wideout Juju Smith-Schuster coming into Sunday's match, saying the third-year wideout wasn't near his former teammate Antonio Brown after 3 catches for 44 yards in the Steelers' win over the Rams. This is what Juju had to say in return.
Definitely not. He's right, though. I'm not Antonio Brown. I will never be Antonio Brown. I am Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm not as good as him yet. I think I still have time to proceed to get to his level. But I mean, we're totally two different persons. Like I said, I mean, it was me and Jalen Ramsey, and he had a good game.
right, respect. Kimberley, are you team high road or is this team no confidence?
No, I'm team high road. Okay, so he's not Antonio Brown. He didn't say he could never be better than Antonio Brown. He just said, right now, I'm not Antonio Brown. And who knows, maybe he's playing semantics. Maybe it's, I'm not that sideshow that is Antonio Brown. I'm just focused on my game. I like it.
Lizzie, what do you think?
I think he's self-aware. He is not a number 1 receiver. He's a number 2 receiver, which is why you see him getting moved all over the field, outside, inside. He is a big slot, and he knows what he is, and he knows what his job is, and he stays in his damn lane and excels at it. So I think props and snaps to humility and self-awareness.
I also think Team High Road here, he had an opportunity. You know, as you said, Kimberly, he didn't take this chance to throw Antonio Brown's offseason or, sideline antics out on there. He just said, you know what? Nope, not as good as him yet, but maybe he'll get there someday. Okay, next up, we travel to Cleveland where the Browns ended their 4-game slide with a home win over the Bills. However, it seems the fans have already given up on this season, as this one fan demonstrated by altering his Mayfield jersey to maybe next year. So Liz, when it comes to the Browns, are you team always next year or team not in Cleveland?
I think always next year. I wanted to live in Believe Land. I keep saying it time and time again. And I think this game was a real mirror moment for Freddie Kitchens. He needs to hand that playbook over to Todd Monken and let him handle the clipboard. And then maybe they can evaluate what they have and win in 2020.
Yeah, I'm team next year. I am not willing to give up on Baker Mayfield and the Browns. I just can't do it. I don't know. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. I don't know, but I think that was a big win, especially against a team in the Bills who they had their own high expectations and they seem like a paper tiger as well. So I'm all in on the Bills. I'm all in on the Browns. I still think they're struggling, guys. I think the Browns will figure it out.
Okay, yeah, I'll round that out. I'm team always next year. They're just too talented. You can't just quit on this team yet. They've got too many weapons. I think they will eventually figure it out. So finally, we stay in Cleveland, why not, where Browns fans were hosting the Bills Mafia and doing their best to make them feel right at home.
Oh my gosh. What the hell?
Unfortunately, it didn't work out too well for this table amateur who probably has multiple broken bones now. So, Kimberly, are you team stay in your own lane or team Browns Mafia?
Oh, this is so tragic. She didn't even break the table. Listen, if you were going to copy, here's where I'm all in on the Bills. If you're going to copy the Bills tailgating thing, break the table, show some commitment, actually, have some force out there. This is all Bills Mafia. Shame on you for even trying to steal this. Embarrassing.
Oh my God, I think it's perfectly on brand for the Browns. Well done. You are a reflection of this team. Congratulations. And you know what? GFY.
GFY.
Oh, I'm not.
I mean LFG.
Oh, LFG. Girls, we were LFG, not GFE. I'm like, I'm too old for this. What is this?
I don't know what we're doing.
All right, that's it for Pickin' Teams. Before we go, anything that we missed in today's show, my lovies?
We did not talk about the Cowboys, and I am so frustrated with the Cowboys. I want to believe in them too, but no.
Even the rally cat. I was like, okay, I kind of see where they're going
Black
with
cat
there.
was going to turn the tide, but no. I'm done. They've killed it.
Lizzie, anything you didn't get to say in the show?
I just want to thank the men and women who fight in our armed forces for doing it and keeping us safe. Happy Veterans Day. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Amen.
And on that note, that is a wrap for Cover 3 for Kimberly and Liz. Thanks for watching. Be sure to keep it locked on the Yahoo Sports app for Seahawks and Niners coming up next, and we'll see you right here next week.
You guys get to see them for 3 or 3.5 hours on a Sunday, but what they go through to play and the toughness they display, I was happy for them to see some of the hard work they put in, get rewarded today.
Just unbelievable team effort. Not ideal, not perfect. We'll evaluate tomorrow, but today we play, and I thought they played to win without fear.
I hate playing friends. A lot of friends over there. I'm just happy we're winning, and they got a long flight home.
I am completely screwing the team with the amount of penalties I've had in these last 6 games. It's crazy. It's horrible. I cannot get penalties. I'm sorry. There's no need to ask about it because I know I'm an absolute liability when it comes to penalties.